So, so anyway, that's, and another thing about this, I've got a cool example. As your message goes down through the layers, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I've got an example I use here, a set of envelopes. I've only got 4 envelopes, though. I didn't do 7. So this is your HTTP, this is the application layer. This is your HTTP GET, it's called. When you click on the link, your web browser sends out an HTTP GET to the web server telling it to get the web page. That's actually a part of the protocol. The HTTP protocol is a GET. So here's the HTTP GET, and it goes inside a TCP, which is at layer 4. I'm skipping layer 6 and 7, or 5 and 6. Yeah, it goes into layer 4. This is TCP, or UDP. They operate at layer 4, and they have things called port numbers. And so it goes into the TCP, and it adds its own information, the port number stuff. So as it goes down through the layer, each layer adds more header information, they call it. That's what the H's are. The data goes inside, and the header stuff is written on the outside. So the TCP packet then goes inside of an IP packet, the Internet Protocol. So that's layer 3, which is called the network layer. And it adds the IP information. So like the IP addresses, the source and destination IP addresses. And then it goes down to the Ethernet layer, which is layer 2 and layer 1. And it becomes an Ethernet frame, and it gets its information. It's called MAC addresses, media access control addresses. Those are, it's a hexadecimal number that's stamped on every networking device. Like this device would have a MAC address written on it somewhere. It's actually burned into the networking device. It could be a USB Wi-Fi stick, or it could be your Ethernet adapter built into your motherboard. They all have their own MAC addresses. And so a MAC address is added at layer 2, and then layer 1, it's sent out as 1s and 0s over the wire. And then at the other end, comes in real big, and each one decapsulates. This is called encapsulation when it's going down, and I call it decapsulation. I don't know if that's the proper word, as it's going up, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller until the web server eventually sees this HTTP GET message at the other end. So that's kind of my analogy of how the layers work. So as it goes down from the sender, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and goes out the bottom and comes up at the receiver and gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And an interesting thing is if you do have an intermediate node like a router, the router is only interested in the IP address. He doesn't care what kind of application it is. So when a router receives this, he opens it up and looks inside, and he looks at the destination IP address, and he says, oh, that's got to go that way. Okay, so he then puts it back into a layer 2 and sends it off onto the wire. And the next router would pick it up and do the same thing, look at the destination IP, and put it back in and send it off to, eventually when it gets to the other end, he's the guy that takes it out of all the envelopes and looks at the final